What is a recent underrated rom-com that has come out?
What's up, everybody? So, my answer to the question is Set It Up. Came out in 2018 on Netflix, directed by Claire Scanlon, and starring Taye Diggs, Lucy Liu, Glen Powell, and Zoey Deutch. Now, I'm not big on rom-coms, but every time they pop up on my radar, I check it out. I'm wondering, because it is the most predictable genre there is. There's always going to be some kind of misunderstanding. It's always going to be resolved in the end, and everybody lives happily ever after. But this one had some layers to it that, to me, and this might seem like I'm overdoing it a little bit, but I really do believe this, very Shakespearean-esque. There's a lot of multiple plot lines going on at the same time, and I think the director, Claire Scanlon, juggles them very, very nicely, very evenly, and it makes a, I think, really satisfying ending at the end. So Zoey Deutch and Glen Powell play assistants to their tyrannical bosses, Lucy Liu and Taye Diggs. Zoey Deutch works for Lucy Liu, Glen Powell works for Taye Diggs. And they are just demanding like no other. They keep them up at night, no holidays, no days off. It's just tireless and endless work 24/7. And at some point, the two of them, they meet, they get together, and then as they're kind of venting together about their respective bosses, they come up with the plan of maybe the reason why they're so miserable is because they don't have anybody. They're single and they're miserable because of it. So they decide to couple them up, so that way hopefully they can ease up off of them, and then they can have a less demanding workload where they're not going to get burnt out and they can actually move up the chain. And so you're dealing with, here are the multiple plot lines: Taye Diggs and Glen Powell's relationship, and then you have Zoey Deutch and Lucy Liu's relationship, and then you have the relationship between Glen Powell and Zoey Deutch. So there's like a lot going on there, and of course the misunderstandings happen. There's the breakup that goes on. There's all right, we got to get them back together or else our lives are going to be hell, etc., etc. And it's all done in a it's a believable, I'm not going to say realistic, but it is a believable way in which which Glen Powell and Zoey Deutch get together and plan these, makeup sessions or meetings. And then as the conclusion of the movie unfolds, it's actually a little bit more realistic in that way, because something happens between Taye Diggs and Lucy Liu's character that you don't really expect to happen. And then the way that, spoilers if you haven't seen this movie yet, the way that Zoey Deutch and Glen Powell get together, I thought it was a nice kind of subversive way for the audience, because you're expecting one specific way, and then when the other way happens, you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting it, but I can see how that happened, and I enjoyed it. So the performances are great. Taye Diggs is really funny. I think he's one of those underrated actors that has not exactly blown up in the same way that he kind of broke out. The first time the first time I remember seeing him was in How Stellar Got a Groove back in the 90s with Angela Bassett, and then started to build his career, but it didn't really pop. I'm not saying he's a Denzel level actor as far as skill is concerned, but he's definitely has those movie star qualities about him. He's got that charisma, he's got those good looks, and he definitely has acting chops, and they're varied. Lucy Liu, same thing. She's really, really funny in a different kind of way, because, for me, she first came up on my radar with Ally McBeal, which has its own type of humor. Which she did an amazing job with that. But it was nice seeing a kind of similar role in this movie to Ally McBeal, but just a little bit more intense. And Glen Powell he's one of those guys, man. I think I've said this before in a previous video. He would absolutely be a movie star if this was the 90s, in the era of movie stars. He has that versatility as an actor. He has comedic timing. He's got the good looks as well. He's got that, the acting chops. You know, so I think he's one of these guys. I'm glad he's popped a little bit after Top Gun Maverick. Um, but at the same time, I wish, because his most recent movie was not the best with The Running Man. It wasn't what I expected, especially what I expected it to be. But I think there's still hope. And so if you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend it. It's going to be a good time, and you'll definitely enjoy it. All right? If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.